Dude, the first time I ever held a gun, I was 8 years old, and it was a grenade launcher. It was an M203 grenade launcher. That same year, my dad showed me what the white powder was. He was in the military, by the way, and he told me to take a sniff of it so that I understood what it was and so that I was clear about what not to do when I was older. And obviously it worked. You see, I didn't grow up like a normal kid. Even just 3 years ago, my dream was to have a relaxing 9 to 5 in the US up until I received a very threatening letter that forced me and kicked me out of the country.
If we translate that on online, bro, you're gonna be unstoppable. Like, I swear you're gonna be unstoppable. The best salespeople I know come from door knocking, car salesmen in person. So if you're able to translate some of that into online, game over. Like, legitimately game over.
And less than a year ago, after helping thousands of online coaches, I launched my own consulting offer. And I grew that to 6 figures, and I've been helping other coaches even hit $1 million years. It's been pretty crazy. And to think about the fact that I'm still young, it's still crazy to me. I've been cheated on, betrayed, disrespected, lied to. I've been traveled around the world. I've been paid to go speak on stages. I even wrote a nutrition book and even consulted a guy that wasn't on the Joe Rogan podcast, and so many other things, but that doesn't matter. What matters is the realization I came to. And the realization I came to was that only 2 questions really matter in life. Number 1 is, how do you define success? And number 2 is, are your actions aligned to that definition of success? Throughout the past couple of years, I honestly didn't know what success was to me because I was being pulled in a bunch of different directions, and honestly, I think I was really blind. All because I didn't have this crucial step that I fully believe that you don't have either. The first thing is that many people don't really take the time to define what success means to them. You probably were like me a couple of years ago. I just took a lot of time on Instagram and scrolling on Instagram and seeing people who were very successful, and I thought that was my definition of success. But then I kept scrolling and I saw something else, and then that became my definition of success. So spread apart and so different all the time and every single day that I was just very confused and I didn't know what the fuck I wanted to do with my life. So what happens with probably you and other people is that you fall to the default of what society's definition of success is. And we all know what that kind of looks like. And then there's the other part of people. So other people have a real clear vision of what success means to them, but they only put this vision in high regard, vision boards, mental masturbation of what they think it is. None of their actions really align with it. And we all know this, but you'll never reach a destination if you're moving in the opposite direction, obviously. And genuinely, all of my clients, other than obviously business stuff, they ask me for this advice. I recently had a conversation with a client of mine where he had to move back to his old townhome, his old home, and he felt really disconnected. I had another client that his lease was up and he was forced to move out to a different apartment. And he was moving everywhere. See, what a lot of people don't realize is that entrepreneurship and building a business is not only just the fights that you have with business and entrepreneurship and all the things that you have to do, but most of the times it's also personal stuff. I say this often, and I say entrepreneurship is the best door and the best window to personal development. You get tested a lot, and generally my clients often ask for this type of advice. So I really hope what I'm about to tell you helps you. The first thing that you need to do is you have to start by answering those 2 questions that I told you about. So how do you define success, and are your actions aligned with that definition? And I like old school writing. So I have this bullet journal and I like to just write it, and I force myself to condense all of that vision into 1 sentence. Because here's what happens is a lot of people get into this habit of I want to journal, and then they force themselves to do it so it feels like a chore, and then they stop doing it. So what I did is I forced myself, but only 1 sentence of gratitude combined with a sentence of vision. And this is well said in the book Think and Grow Rich. He explains, I think in the chapter of desire, one of those chapters, I don't remember, I think it's desire, he asks you to be very clear on what you feel, what you see, and what you accomplish, and the things that you're going to do to accomplish that. So I took the liberty of taking all those things and just condensing it into 1 sentence. The best way I can put it is, if you can write that you're thankful for your vision because you already got there, I feel like that sums up everything. So if you can just write 1 sentence, that'd be great. But in order for you to write that one sentence, again, you have to define success and be very clear on your vision. So the first thing that you have to do is be very clear on the ideal state, your ideal state. So simply bullet out what your ideal life already looks like in the future. So who are you going to be around? And have a really hard conversation with yourself about, are the people who are around you the people that you want to keep around you when you get to where you want to get to? So who are you going to be around? The second is, what would you do with your time? Like, what would the highest version of yourself do with their free time? Is it watching Netflix? Is it playing video games? Or is it reading? Or is it buying into mentorship and going into one-on-one calls with your mentor? Hell, even traveling. I traveled from Colombia to Miami on a 2 days notice to meet with a mentor for 2 hours. And that's the kind of actions that my highest self would have done regardless. So I have to act like my highest self, and I highly recommend you do that. So what would you do with your time? Where would you be? Be very clear. I have a very clear vision of where I'm going to be, and I'm one step very closer. If anything, I think I'm already there, but I can't tell where I am. The last is how things would look and feel. One thing is you imagining it. The other thing is actually feeling it. I see this often, and I'm not a huge vision board kind of guy, but sometimes it helps me imagine my life, how it feels. And the biggest mistake I see people do when they do this vision board is that they just go on Google and they just search whatever picture of a car. I'll tell you mine. So like, I am going to get a Porsche, and what past me would have done is just Google the image and then the image of the car and put it on a vision board, so I see it every day. But then again, what's that memory saying? What's that picture saying? It's just saying that I'm just seeing it on the street. Yes, I can walk around the block and see one or two, maybe. Even before I recorded this video, I saw one. What I want to have is, how would it feel for me to be in the driver's seat, actually driving? So one thing I did is, in Tampa, I'm not saying do this, but if you can, it's awesome. In Tampa, I went to the car dealership, and the guy who was there is a pretty cool guy. And I told him, I was like, dude, I'm gonna be 100% honest with you. Right now, today, I'm not gonna buy a car, but here's the mod I did of my car. And I gave him the link, and we went through like the paperwork and everything. And I said, hey man, like, I really want to sit in this car. Do you have anything similar? So he had one. I went in the car and I put my hand on the wheel and I took a picture. And that's a picture I have of a car in my vision board. And it just goes to say that you really have to feel, you have to look, you have to touch the steering wheel, you have to really smell how the car smells, all those things. Because I know once I get there, because I will, it will feel familiar already, and I can just sense it. So who do you want to be around? What would you do with your time? Where would you be? And how would things look and feel? The more descriptive, the better, obviously. So dream big, but you have to understand the actions that get you there. Really defining the end state kind of shines a path on how to get there. A lot of people are lost in that they imagine something and they just don't know how to go there or how to get there. So they just start going everywhere. My biggest advice for you is two things. One, buy books of people who've already done the thing. There's clearly people who've done it. And two, buy into mentorship. Mentorship is buying somebody's time and knowledge so they can teach you about the mistakes they did so you don't do them again. Another thing I tell my clients to do all the time, and specifically not just with like their vision, but for example with numbers and sales, and they want to hit a certain revenue goal, it's always reverse engineer. So if the revenue goal is, 200K a month, we reverse engineer on the specific actions that would get us there. So for example, how many calls do you have to book? How many of those calls need to show up? How many of those calls that showed up do you have to offer, give them an offer, pitch them an offer? What's your close rate need to be? So if your close rate is 30% and you're whatever, I'm not gonna do the math right now, but if you can reverse engineer, it gives you the step to the first thing that you need to start doing today to get there. So having a clear goal, clarifying the vision, and reverse engineer so you have clear milestones on what to hit starting from where you are today. And after you complete this exercise, you'll be surprised that your ideal state doesn't really require so many unbearable things. You can really nail down things to a T, what you need to do today, and you'll gain a lot of clarity. However, a lot of why a lot of people fail is because they gain clarity, they gain the vision, they get the feelings, they have all these things, but they miss one of the biggest, if not the biggest thing that could really say if you're going to make it or not. And this is execution. Yes, you can have things on paper. Yes, you can have all the goals. Yes, you can have all the metrics, all those things. But things on paper are nice, but execution will always give you the clarity that you need. Execution can look like and feel like mistakes. You can execute today and actually feel like you're not doing anything to move forward. And that's when you adjust the sales and go somewhere different. But if you have everything on paper and you feel like just having the things on paper are going to be like all the things that you need, it's not going to do anything. So execution is going to bring the clarity that you need so you can adjust the plan, reverse engineer it again, and get closer to where you want to get to. A big kind of like slap in the face that I've gotten very recently is that the vision of where I'm going right now, it's going to take a little bit longer. I mean, that's fine. But I got to that conclusion by executing, by asking people who are already there, and by buying into mentorship. When I buy into mentorship, it feels like it's like when you go shopping and you're walking through like a very expensive mall and look into the store, like a Rolex store. You look into it, like you have the vision of it's right there. You can't go in there just yet, but you have a vision of this is how it looks like. That's the thing I want. You can look at it very clearly. So when you buy into mentorships and people who've done it before, they can take you there faster. And it's like you have a glimpse into the future. So understand that there are tools out there for you that can take you there quicker, but it's going to take a while. And in this time frame, your end state might change over time, and that's completely fine, because maybe when you're getting there, you realize that you want something else. It's still kind of like the same direction, but just you steer it off a little bit, because as you got there and as you executed and as you got clarity, some things change, and that's completely fine. What's important is to always have a clear picture of what you're moving towards, and so that you always have some sort of direction to go to. What I work on with my private clients inside of my mentorship, obviously as far as business and growing their business, that's what happens obviously all the time, is a lot of grit and mindset. And I know this sounds woo-woo and like, oh my god, another guy speaking about mindset and business, but that's just how it is. I'm not gonna convince you into doing it, but one thing that I'm gonna give you is 2 books that really help me shape into what I teach for my clients. And one of those, obviously I mentioned it before, is Think and Grow Rich, and the other one is The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson, I think is his name. So really have a clear picture of where you want to get to. Repeat that picture in your mind every single day. More important, execute. That's going to bring you clarity. Work your ass off. And understand that there are tools out there that are going to accelerate your progress into who you want to become, where you are going to be, how it's going to feel that when you get there. And if you have any questions regarding creating the dream life that you're imagining, just drop me a question down below. If you like this video, like it and subscribe if this was helpful. And I'll see you on the next one.